In other news we're tracking for you, the SA Democratic Teachers Union, Sadtu, has handed over a memorandum of demands to Treasury in Pretoria today. The union, alongside Cosatu, protested against austerity measures in the education system. They've now given government 21 days to respond to their demands. The union has also threatened to down tools if they are not met. We're joined now by Cosatu spokesperson Zanele Sabela. It's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. I mean, it's a difficult situation to come to terms with, right? The fact that government says budget cuts are necessary for fiscal responsibility, and yet it comes at a time where, for example, grade R has been made compulsory, and we actually need more teachers.
We certainly do need more teachers. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for having us. Like you said, the Bella Act, one of the very important provisions of the Bella Act is the fact that it says that, a grade R should be compulsory, which is a very good thing because then it gives the kids a very good foundation. And so more teachers will be needed for that. And so it is very important that funds be allocated to make sure that more teachers, especially, like the early development, period, that they should actually be more teachers. And so that's why Cosatu joined its affiliate Sadtu to make sure that this must happen. There needs to be more funds allocated that way. We have been, for the longest time, actually, trying to say to government, this road that government has gone on of austerity budget cuts is not taking us anywhere. Our economy hasn't grown. Unemployment has skyrocketed, and it's sitting now at 41.9%. For youth who are aged between 15 and 24, it's actually quite high. It's over 70%. And so when you look at the fact that, some of those young people should actually still be in school, that's why it is important that government needs to look at putting more funds in education. Like Sadtu has said over and over again, especially today, that education is actually an investment in the future, not just of the children, but of this country.
But of course we know this, right? And yet we have chosen to, when we effected budget cuts, to do so in the education sector. I mean, are there any proposals that Cosatu, alongside Sadtu, will be putting forward to government as an alternative to austerity measures or a different way of implementing austerity?
For starters, those planned retrenchments of teachers must definitely stop. And there needs to be more teachers hired. The austerity cuts, like I've said, just haven't moved us forward at all. What has actually happened is teachers are finding themselves sitting in a classroom with a ratio of 1 teacher to 8 children. And so obviously that is a recipe for disaster. You can just imagine one teacher trying to control 80 children, especially in the lower grades. It just doesn't work, and it just doesn't allow for that time to develop that great foundation for children to actually develop as they go through all the grades. And so it's those things that need to stop. And unfortunately, it's the people that cannot afford to pay private fees, because in private schools, you'll find a ratio of 1 teacher to 12 children, which is great. It's wonderful for them, but they have to pay through the nose. And for those who just cannot afford, then they have to deal with this, especially in township schools and in rural areas. That just keeps, that just says that Black people just keep staying where they have been, and there is no measurable difference since the democratic dispensation. And so that is why it is critical that government actually puts education as a priority and pours money into it.
And we know that, and you've just touched on it now, Zanele, we know that schools in the poorest parts of our country are the worst affected by these budget cuts.
Definitely the worst affected. I mean, we have seen schools without windows, schools without roofs. We have seen children swimming across the river to get to school, which quite frankly, I mean, it is ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing 31 years into democracy that those kind of things still happen. And so from just the infrastructure, then we speak about textbooks. We get into the fact that there needs to be a teacher in front of the children. Sadtu has mentioned that government is not hiring substitute teachers so that when a teacher is on maternity leave or when a teacher is just plain sick, then somebody needs to continue teaching the children. These things can't continue to happen. It needs to stop. And therefore, government needs to, this whole thing about fiscal discipline. We know of countries that are growing, economically at a much higher rate than us, whose debt to GDP ratio is much higher than us. So this whole thing, government has tried it, and we have seen how our economy is just growing at just under 1% for the longest time. It's time for new ideas. It's time to start new things, to make sure that government tries other things to see how far we can get, because this road, the definition of insanity, as Einstein said, is hitting your head against the wall and trying to see like something different will happen. But no, it's time for government to try new things. And this austerity just hasn't taken us anywhere.
And the most difficult thing to accept is that these austerity measures are being implemented in sectors like education and also in health.
And also in health. And so we have seen a very small light at the end of the tunnel, in that the Minister of Health actually about 2 weeks ago announced that they'd be employing more doctors, they'd be employing more nurses and other health professionals. Although our affiliate Dinosa has thought that, employing 200, just 200 nurses is also just an insult, because we know how overstretched they also are. And that's the problem. The problem with these austerity budget cuts is you have fewer people actually doing the job that a lot more people have to do. And that puts a strain on the people that are already in the department trying to deliver for a lot more people. And so this is why we see that service delivery is not where it should be. But then it also puts a strain and, overburdens the current staff that is there. And therefore, people now start to have mental health issues. And this is not what we want to see.
Zanele Sabela is Cosatu's spokesperson. Thanks very much indeed for joining us in the wake of Sadtu's march to Treasury just earlier today. They've now submitted a memorandum of demands to government, and they've given government 21 days to respond.